You guys hear me properly?
येस येस आदित्य. आता इको बंद झाला बघ.
You can hear me, right?
हा तुझं बहुतेक लॅपटॉप चालू असेल ना, म्हणून इको होत होता वाटतं.
ओके. मी ना दुसऱ्या मीटिंगला जॉईन नाही केलंय. दुसऱ्या मीटिंगला आता करतो आणि बघू आपण एको होतोय का.
हो
माईक
नवीन
दोघी
टॅब मध्ये.
चालू करायला लागेल, राईट? माईक
हो
दोघी
हो
चालू ठेवायला.
हो हो
ठीक आहे, मी आता करतो. एको झाला तर मग आपल्याला मे बी मग एकाच मीटिंगला शिफ्ट करायला लागेल, नाहीतर एकोच.
नाही, आता नेहमी आम्ही घेतो ना, आम्ही तर इको नाही होत. म्हणजे
ठीक आहे.
फक्त दोघांच्या साईडने, कारण मीटिंग डिफरंट आहे ना, त्यामुळे इको नाही होत असं. आणि एकच माईक असतो आपल्या लॅपटॉपला.
ठीक आहे, मी चेक करतो. मी आता दुसऱ्या मीटिंगला जॉईन करतोय.
येस ओके.
Can everyone hear from the meeting one? I can see Rajeshwari ma'am. Good morning, ma'am.
Aditya, good morning. Thanks for joining this meeting and being a speaker today. Very happy
Yeah.
for you. Everything good there?
Yeah, pleasure is all mine, ma'am.
Yes. No, you comfortable there with your MS program?
Yes, it's comfortable. Like right now, it's my second year over here. We shifted to a new place.
Okay.
Now we got a bigger place here in Boston.
Very
It is
nice.
all good. It is all good.
Sometimes
We are
when you
set
come
at.
back, let's meet.
Yes, definitely. I was back in India for 3 months, but yeah, there were some like other things which I had to do.
Okay.
Yeah, that is why I couldn't come to the college.
I would like to know about the way they conduct lectures, assignments, and other things, Aditya. Let's see.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yes.
After.
We could schedule a one-on-one call whenever
Yeah.
you're free.
Yes.
I'm open to discuss all the things.
Yes.
Yeah,
Please continue.
sure. Sushma
But
ma'am, I think we are good. We are not getting the echo now.
yes. Second link you join, Aditya.
Yes, just to confirm, like, for example, I see Sonal, Rohit in one meeting, right? Can you guys hear me properly?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And in the second meeting, I see maybe Vedant, Nishita. Can you guys hear me on the second meeting? Yep. Good. Yeah, we are set. On both the meetings.
Just a wait. Radhika will introduce the speaker. Radhika, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Let's do that.
And we are glad to be hosting you today on behalf of Computer Engineering PCCOE. Today we have Mr. Aditya Kable between us to address you all.
Thank you, everyone. Really, it's a pleasure meeting you all in person, like virtually. Sorry, I'm just figuring out few things because I'm joining from a different laptop wherein I'll be sharing my screen. So just give me a minute, okay? With technology, yeah, things get difficult, right? Virtual. Just give me a minute. Why don't I see the share option? Any ideas, ma'am? Why I don't see screen sharing option on one of my PCs? Maybe because I'm not a host. Hello.
येस, माधुरी मॅडम. हॅलो. हां.
Yeah, yeah, now I see it. That's perfect. Yeah, you need to enable it for the second meeting as well so that people on the second thing also get to see it. Cool. Now I see both. Let me just go to share my screen. Allow, and I'm sharing. Okay, both the meetings see my screen. Yeah, I'll need some feedback if you see my screen on both the meetings. Yeah, we're good, right? Okay. Alrighty, yes, people. So, good morning to everyone. I really appreciate you guys taking out time on Sunday. I know Sundays are very crucial. You get that one break, and yeah, we are doing a workshop over here. But yeah, trust me, you will enjoy this, and yeah, we'll get through this. So, how did we end up here? Okay, so I was in connection with Sushma ma'am, and during my college days, right, PCCOE, I was really very interested into data, working with databases and data warehousing, and which got me very interested into the data world, the business intelligence world. Luckily, I also got a job in a company called as PTC, wherein, as the host mentioned, right, I was working in enterprise integration team. I was working with different softwares, different data tools, and yeah, basically working on data on day-to-day life. This interested like I got interested in all these things and decided to pursue higher education. That is why right now I'm speaking to you from Boston. I'm pursuing my master's degree from Northeastern University. Currently doing masters in data architecture and management, which has to do with all the stuff which we are going to speak today. So I developed this simple PPT because yeah, who wants to spend more time on PPT will straight away get into the workshops. So the first question which you might have is like, who is this random dude trying to give like BI workshop, that too on a Sunday morning, right? I totally agree with this. It's Saturday night here in Boston. I should be like maybe sleeping, but it is my pleasure to work with PCCOE, and my interest of mentoring people is what brings me over here. Second is, who is this guy? We already touched upon that. I was a previous alumni for PCCOE, and right now we'll be doing the workshop. And more importantly, what is BI actually? So we came with this mindset that okay, we are going to do a workshop, but what does BI actually mean? So BI, it stands for business intelligence. So the question is, why do you want the businesses to be intelligent? Okay. So if we start from that particular point, then things start getting into picture. Okay. So from my experience, what I've seen is like a typical business on a regular basis, they use like 600 to 700 softwares on a daily basis. They could be like on premises softwares, they could be like databases, they could be cloud applications like Facebook, Salesforce, all these things, right? So these different softwares, they get a lot of data on a daily basis. And now, in order to be competitive in that particular market, companies have to get this data from these 600 softwares, store it in a centralized location, so that so-called data scientists, machine learning engineers can work on that data, and then they can give some insights to the business. So we all know that there is a lot of hype around data science, machine learning, deep learning. That is good stuff. It is really good to see how things are getting automated. But in order for those things to get really good, you at the core level really need to be good at your data skills. Unless and until you have proper data, proper clean data, you won't be able to leverage tools like ChatGPT. Are you guys aware of ChatGPT? I'm sure you might be. Anyone from the audience? Yeah. So ChatGPT, right? It is a wonderful AI tool wherein you just write in some like whatever things you have on your mind, and it will generate an answer for you. How does it do that? It took all the data from Stack Overflow. It took all the data from Google queries, Google pages, and then it aggregated all those data to create your deep learning models, to create your large LLM models, right? So that is why I was interested in this core level, wherein I wanted to be that foundation for those data scientists, for those ML engineers. That is why I'm here, and that is why we'll be doing the workshop. By the way, are you guys interested, or are you still sleeping from the Sunday morning session? You're good, right? Okay. I think people are sleeping, they need a coffee maybe. Okay, anyways, we go on to the second item. Okay, you have woke up, you know what you want to do, but yeah, definitely we need breakfast, right, to get the day started. So, what are we going to do today? What are we going to have? So, just a sneak peek. We'll be building some kind application similar to this. Are you guys able to see the PowerPoint screen? Power BI screen? Yeah. By the way, I need some host who will give me confirmations so that the session goes quick. Okay. Yeah. All right.
Yes.
Yeah. So this is what we'll be building today. Okay. This is a Power BI dashboard. Okay. Which I built shortly for you guys. Okay. Now one thing is clear, that we want to like make this particular thing, but where do I find the ingredients, right? So while I was doing research for this workshop, I came across this beautiful website. It is called as like data.government.in. It is nothing but Indian open data website, wherein all the data related to government of India, it is posted freely over here. All you need to do is create an account and get hold of the data. Okay. So what kind of data are we going to work today with? Okay. So if you go under this particular website, there is something called as imports and exports. So India being a large country, right? uh, it will need certain items. It could be tea, it could be coffee, it could be petrol, diesel, anything. All the things won't be developed or won't be manufactured in India straight away. There are certain things which we could get from different countries. Okay. We hear about imported cars, we hear about imported perfumes. The concept is similar. Okay. So I came across this beautiful data set which says like we have 2014 to 2020 worth of data. Okay. We unfortunately we don't have data from 2021 to 2023, but definitely we have it for like 4 to 5 years, like 2014 to 2020. So what is this data actually about? So if I show you the preview of the data, so it is something like this. So there was a commodity like maybe tea, which was imported from Argentina. It was these many kgs. Okay. So almost, if you see, it is 1.6. Okay. 1.6 million kilos worth of tea was imported from Argentina to India, and this particular shipment, it was worth 2.46 US million dollars. Everyone is clear with this concept, what the data is? It's very simple concept. We have foreign countries which are trying to import, which are trying to export some particular commodity with a particular unit and the quantity, and we also have a price for it. Okay. So ideally what I did is I downloaded all these data sets for you. Okay. So right, so as I mentioned, we are working from 2014 to 2020, correct? So if I show you this data locally, yeah, by the way guys, if you have any questions or if there are any technical difficulties, please let me know so that we don't waste the time in that. Okay, is it clear? All right. Yeah, so it'll take some time to load. Hmm. So this was one particular commodity which we saw, right? Tea. If you search something for coffee, maybe, yeah, we have coffee, right? So there is this country Australia, which is getting coffee into India, only 3 kgs of coffee, right? So maybe it was a gift or something like that, very small amount. Okay, but the point which I'm trying to make over here is we have this kind of data wherein different countries are trying to export certain items to India. We have their quantities and we have their cost. Okay, so it is an interesting data set to work with. Now, okay, we'll switch back to the slides. So now I know like what kind of data are we going to work with, because after all we are working towards creating a BI application, right? Business intelligence. So what is the business? Okay, so suppose if I am a tea manufacturer, okay, who is interested in knowing which different countries are like good contributors to India and bad contributors to India. Like for example, we have Australia, which on a regular basis imports huge quantities of tea items to India. So maybe I could seek those Australian traders or those Australian manufacturers for my benefit, right? Are you getting the context? Similarly, if there are certain countries wherein the export is low for India, maybe for example, if it is Sweden constantly has very less rate of exports to India, we could speak with different manufacturers in Sweden and see if they could increase these rates. Are you getting the point? So this is a kind of intelligence we are trying to get from the application which we are going to build. Make sense? Sounds interesting maybe? Yeah. So yeah, typically with workshop what is expected is you guys follow along, but when we speak about BI projects or data engineering projects, there are multiple things which we need to take care of. There will be multiple tools which we will be using. Necessarily those tools won't be installed on your machines. Secondly, there could be different checklist or list of things which you guys need to do beforehand, right? So what I would suggest is you guys just see what I'm doing, just get a brief idea on a higher level, like how a project is architected from start to end. Okay, so instead of like you guys working on the project straight away, I think you should more focus on what procedures do I follow and how do I get to making this particular dashboard. Okay, so that was one of the things. Okay, now I know that I need to do breakfast. What is the recipe? Okay, so the uh, like when you are trying to build BI applications, generally there is this notion of source and target. Okay, what is the source? We downloaded this data manually from this website, right? We know that we have this particular CSV files, okay, which have data partitioned with different years, like 2014 to 2015 in its own separate file, 2019 to 2020 in its own separate file. The goal is if I plan to make this particular dashboard, it should aggregate all this data from those different files. because if I don't do that, all the data will be in its own space and it won't add value directly. Correct? So there certainly needs to be some kind of engineering which needs to be done to aggregate all these data sets. Okay, so the goal, how do we do that? So we have different CSV files. Okay, CSV meaning it is like a Excel sheet, okay, which has data. Now we want to get that particular data into a centralized location so that our BI application can look at a bigger picture of the data. But in order to do that, we first need to understand what kind of data are we dealing with. When we are building, maybe you have this experience, when you are building data science applications, machine learning applications, you first have to take on the hat of data cleaning, right? You have to clean the data, you have to maybe like encode the data so that it fits right with your machine learning model. Similarly, when you are trying to get data into a centralized location, we need to clean that particular data. What if we don't do it? Okay, if we don't do it, ultimately whatever application which we are trying to build over here, it will show wrong values. And if my application is showing wrong values, it means as a business I would be taking wrong decisions on the basis of that dashboard, which would ultimately hamper my business. I would be getting into loss. Is this point clear, team? Do you understand the importance of getting the data into a single place? And before getting that into a single place, how do you clean that particular data? So I will take a pause over here and I'll open the like stage for anyone to ask questions. And I want you guys to ask questions because that way I will also not sleep. It is like 11:30 here and it will keep me motivated. Any questions? Ma'am, any questions from your side?
No, Aditya, you can continue.
Yeah, we are good. Okay. So we have set this premise like we want to get the data into a centralized location. Why? Because we want to see the data from a big picture view. Okay. We also understand that we want to have a proper cleaned data before we get that data into a single place. But how do I make a decision like what cleaning measures will I have to take? You cannot go through the data set manually, just as I did, right? If I go to this editor and it is not humanly possible for me to go through this data set individually, see if there is a missing value, see if there is like a character instead of number. Like for example, if I open this with, it's not humanly possible for me to make judgment what data should be cleaned. For example, if the quantity, ideally it is expected that this should be a number, but what if it has a character, right? So how do you automate this process, or how do you take help of certain tool so that you can fast make this process faster? So we have this beautiful library called as y data profiling. So it has to do with the Python thing. So what I did is I went to my Colab, okay, I installed that library, okay, Python's library. And yeah, let me just put those things for you. This looks good. Yeah, so what I did is I have a particular code, a library which will help me make the decisions on the data cleaning steps. So I upload them to a Colab. Okay, I install that library first. It will take some time. Once the library is installed, I try to import those particular libraries. Then individually, since I said that we have different files on the basis of different years, we need to first aggregate those files so that as a whole we can see what data cleaning steps I need to be taking. Okay, so basically I am reading different files into different variables. I concatenate them so that all the files get merged into one specific file, and then I run a report. Okay, as soon as I do that, what I get is I get this beautiful HTML report. Okay, so you can open that report in your browser, and it computes all those values for you, and it gives you a basic understanding about what kind of data do you have in place. So once we aggregated all the different data, it is clear to me that there are 60,000 records in this data set. 60,000 records. Okay, that is my first understanding. Then we also see like these are the number of missing cells. Okay, so it gives me a good understanding about how many cells have empty values or how many cells have null values. Why? Because these null values are not going to help us in any way, so we need to figure out a way to clean those particular values. Also, then on an individual basis, it gives you idea about different columns. So you have commodity column, right, wherein it has different items which are being imported into India. So if you see the word map, it automatically generates a word map for you. It says that electronics, okay, electronics, paper, leather, okay, chemicals. These words are bigger in picture, right, meaning these items are majorly imported into India. That is one level of insight which you get. Okay, if you speak about the country, right, in country, we have major exporters like China, you have Korea, France, Germany. These are major exporters to India. So are you guys trying to understand like what kind of information are we getting from this? All right. So in unit, right, so different items will be having different units. For example, if you are measuring tea, right, tea will be always in kgs. If you are measuring petrol, you can't do it in kgs, it will be liters, right? So that is why it is denoted by LTR. If you are exporting items like carpet or maybe bed sheets, it would be on the basis of square meter, or maybe tiles, right, ceramic tiles. It would be not by kgs or by liter, it would be by square meter. So this is how you get first hand information on what kind of data you have in place, and according to that you also get the missing values, okay, which are present in those things. So this is kind of a cool library which generates uh, all the different graphs for you. Okay, so just to show you one important thing, if you see the data set for 2019, while I was like working with this library, what I noticed is, okay, I know that the tea is being exported by Argentina. That is good. Okay, this data is perfectly fine. But as soon as you go below, right, if you go below, you have this dummy entry which is a total entry, right, which generates all the totals of this particular thing. Necessarily this record, total record, it is not a commodity which is being imported into India. It is not an item, right, it is just a metadata, or it is a calculation of other entities. Meaning when we are storing this particular data into that centralized location, if we include this particular row, it is going to create a problem because it is not a commodity in itself. So this is how I understood that, okay, when I am going to store this particular data into that centralized location, I need to delete this particular record. Are you guys trying to understand what I'm trying to say, the importance of cleaning the data? Because if we don't do that, it will show incorrect values on your dashboard. It will show incorrect, it will say, the dashboard will say that there is something commodity which is called as total, which is being imported by this amount, which is a huge amount, which could be misleading, right? Everyone is good so far? Making sense? Did we get the understanding about the project which we are trying to build? It's simple, right? The data is quite simple. Okay, alrighty. So we go to the thing. Okay, so okay, we had CSV files. Okay, we understood what cleaning measures we need to be taking. We need to clean that total row file. We also have different kinds of units for measurements, so we got that particular understanding. Now, how do you get those CSV file data into a centralized location? So for this project, what I decided is why we should use MySQL, which is a relational database, as a centralized location which can be used by your Power BI application. Okay, so the task is, how do you get this CSV file data into MySQL? Now here is where your data engineering and data pipeline come into picture. And as for data cleaning, we use this particular library. For the data pipelining stuff, we use this tool called as Talend. Okay, so Talend, it is an open source tool. It looks something like this. Okay, so basically Talend is nothing but it is a like drag and drop tool which allows you to do faster coding. Okay, and basically what you are trying to do over here is you are trying to take out shapes from this particular palette. Okay, so for example, if you want to implement if else logic, or maybe you want to implement a for loop, so instead of writing the for loop or if else logic in code, like maybe in Python or Java, what we try to do is we try to use these shapes and we try to configure those shapes to do the logic. Okay, so this is how we design the code when it comes to data pipelines. Make sense? Okay. Now, since I'm saying from the start that we need to get all this data into a centralized location, I need to make that location, correct? Because we have those CSV files, but we yet don't have the database table or maybe the container to store that aggregated data. So as a BI application developer, it is my responsibility to develop that particular table. So what I did is I created this particular database. Okay, in I call it as India imports exports database. And what I will do is I will try to create a table inside it. You guys understand the concept of database and tables, right? Yeah. And by the way, don't call me professor. I'm just a student like you. Just call me Aditya. Okay. All right. So what I'm trying to do over here is I selected this particular database and I'm trying to create a table inside it. So what do I call the table? I simply, since we are dealing with only imports data, I call it imports table. And just as the way we had our data in our CSV files, right? Commodity, country, unit, quantity, amount. Similarly, I am trying to make the database columns, the table columns for it. Commodity, which is a character column, country, unit. Now quantity, it is a number, right? That is why I gave it a float value. Here it could be a number, so it is a int value. And we'll get to this file name and created date time. So file name, right? Since the goal of this table is to capture data from 5 different files or 6 different files, if we want to debug later in future, like what particular record came from which particular file, in order to track this kind of scenario, we have used file name, which will give us the understanding where this data came from. Okay, and at what time it was created into this whole tables. Okay, so I will quickly create this table. Okay, as soon as I create the table, and you, there is nothing, right? No entry in that particular table. I just made a simple select query on it. Okay, now what are we trying to do over here? We are trying to get that CSV data into our tables. So how the logic should look like? So I've done the coding for it. Okay, workshop. So I've already prepared the code for this. The primary reason to do this was because during workshops, it I know, being a student, I have also attended different workshops. It gets difficult to understand each and every detail. My goal of giving this workshop is to give you a bigger picture so as to how applications are designed, right? Definitely by doing this one workshop you won't be in that position to complete this application, but at least you understand the chits and bits of this complete process. Make sense? All right. Okay, so ideally, what I could do for you is I could create a simple thing. Okay, so this is it looks similar to Eclipse. If you guys have used Eclipse, this tool, it was based on Eclipse. So what I could do is I could create a new folder which could house my code. Okay, new code. So I can name it workshop code. Okay, inside that, in data engineering or BI application, this is called as a job. So we are trying to create data jobs or data pipeline jobs. Okay, so we create a job over here. We name it like CSV to MySQL. Okay, we name the code. Takes time. Okay, so they created a empty canvas for us. Now, as per my logic, what we are trying to do is we are trying to get CSV file data into MySQL, right? But in order for that code, you need that particular code to access that CSV file, correct? In order for that code to access that particular CSV file, the code needs to understand what that CSV file is. For example, if I'm showing you this particular data, right, commodity, country, unit, quantity, amount, my code needs to understand, like, in the first place when I'm reading this file, the first data, it would be commodity. After that, it would be Thailand. After that, it would be NA. Okay, so in order to do that, we create profiles. Okay, so what you do is you go to code, no, you go to metadata. Okay, you are trying to get the data from a CSV file, so you go over here, you create file delimited. You say this like reading a CSV file which has imports data. Okay, imports data. You go to next. Now it says, okay, since you are saying that you want to read a CSV file, at least give me a sample file so that I can understand the structure in which you are going to give me the data. Okay, is this making sense, guys, or am I going fast? Makes sense, right? So yeah, so what I will do is I will click this particular sample file. So maybe I'm giving 2014 to 2015 as an example, as a sample file. Okay, I open it and I say that I'm trying to use a Windows machine, basically Windows laptop. So Windows, you see, it populated the data for us. Okay, commodity, country, unit. Okay, I go to next. Then it says that what kind of data you have over here. So originally, if you look at a file, right? Originally, if you take a look at the file, it is separated by these commas. So your code needs to understand that whatever new item comes into the record, it is separated by those commas. Okay, so you need to configure that. So field separator, you need to select it as a comma. Okay, then you also have the first line of that CSV file is going to be the header information, like the column name. It is not a commodity or it is not a record, right? So you have to make a check for this option. Okay, I'll just go back. Next. Yeah, so it is trying to work on that particular file. Yeah, do you see now? It since we gave it a sample file, it was able to properly judge the data and accordingly segregate that data into different columns. Like we have commodity now, country, unit, quantity, amount. Okay. One more thing which we need to do is where is that? Yeah, we need to just go ahead. Okay, we go to next. Yeah, now yeah, this takes time. Quickly I'll go just behind. Okay, we also need to select this option CSV because it is a CSV file. If you take a look at this data set, right, it is clearly mentioned that it is a CSV kind of file. So we need to make that decision. So are you trying to see like what kind of ease we get when we are trying to use these tools? You are not necessarily coding things by hand, you are just simply making selections, and those selections will help you in automating this whole process of getting the data into one location. Okay, I go next. Okay, then since we gave it a sample file, what it does is it tries to make a guess on the size. Like for example, commodity, the sample file which we gave, it judged that the commodity, the maximum length of that commodity field could be 17. But this won't be true because we just gave it a sample file. In real world, if the data for a commodity, for example, a commodity has a name which is worth 1000 characters, so at that particular time this code would fail. Why? Because the variable size is out of index. Correct. When you are making Java arrays or when you are making strings, you give it a particular size, right? So here you need to make those adjustments. Like maximum my commodity, it would be like of length 1000. The country would be having 1000 characters. Unit, it will keep it as 1000 itself, everything 1000. Okay, so these are the different decisions which you take being a data engineer, being a BI application engineer. Okay, so if you remember, we created this metadata, right, for the code to understand what kind of CSV file it is trying to read. Now simply what I will do is I need to read that particular file. So since now I am going to make the code, I need to just drag it into the canvas. Okay, once I drag that particular thing into canvas, now it opens up new options for me. Okay, it says, okay, you are trying to start the particular file from a CSV file, right? So you want to see which particular file do you want. Okay, so you make a selection that, okay, right now I will just work with this one file. My goal is to take this particular file and put it into that centralized MySQL table. Okay, I open it, enable the CSV options because we are dealing with a CSV file. Okay, and just as we make print statements in Java or print statements in Python to see whether our code is working right, in Talend we have something called as tlog row. Okay, so we drag it over here, and whatever output we have for this particular shape, we keep it over here, and we'll try to run this particular thing. Okay, so what does it say? It says that 995 like 9585 rows were read by this particular file, but unfortunately it did not show anything over here. So, and we also see a warning sign over here, if you are able to see it properly. So it means there is something wrong with our code. We need to make adjustments for that particular thing. Okay, so why did this particular thing fail? Because we gave it that it needs to read this file, but we did not attach the metadata or the help thing which we already built, right? We gave the code a hint, or we gave the code like metadata relating to what kind or what structure of this file is. So we failed to put that. So what we'll do is we'll select the repository, and we created this, right, reading CSV imports, so that my code now understands that structure and it is able to show that on the output. Hopefully this works. This is why I already created code, so that if we come into problem, we are able to just revert back to that code. Yeah, now it works, right? You got the point, right? Earlier we did not supply that hint or metadata to that code. That is why it was not able to judge what kind of content it has. Okay, so we have read the data. Okay, this is good. Okay, should I pause? Do you have any questions so far? Is it too difficult?
Aditya, in Talend, we are doing pre-processing now, right?
Uh, just a
Yeah.
minute, ma'am. There is a student who's asking a question.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, can you just take your name and then ask a question?
So we are
Yes,
doing
I.
analysis. We are doing analysis with the data here. Hello?
Yeah.
Hello?
Ma'am, just
Can you
give me
hear
a
me?
minute. Yeah.
Yes.
There is a student on a second meeting who is asking a question. I'll get back to
Huh.
you in a minute.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Yeah, go ahead, Sahil. Can you ask the question again? Correct. That's a good observation. Let me repeat the question, because there are people on the second meeting who don't know about the question. Okay. So I'll have to juggle around. Okay. So there is the student Sahil. What he said is, like, we discussed that there was this dummy entry, right? Total records entry in the file. For example, like this particular thing. If you go to 2019, go below, you have this particular bad data, right? Total data. So when are we trying to process that particular data or clean that particular data? Okay, so that is the second step, which we are going to deal in that Talend code. My first step was I needed to get this particular data into my Talend, so that Talend understands that there is this bad record which needs to be cleaned. Does that answer your question, Sahil? Yeah. 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 Okay, Sushma ma'am, you can ask your question.
My question is, Talend and Power BI we have installed on the same machine, right?
Yes.
So Talend we are using to clean the data and pre-processing of the data, right?
Correct.
And then is there any provision to merge, means to access the same data in the Power BI, or we need to run it separately like that?
Okay. So the point over here is, when you want your Power BI to show your dashboards, right? It will be needing the data. Correct. That data needs to be cleaned. That cleaning of data will be done by Talent, but obviously that cleaned data will be needed to stored somewhere. That is why we chose this particular route, that we are first doing all the cleaning in the Talent, and whatever clean data we get, we are storing it in MySQL, and then Power BI can refer that MySQL. Power BI won't be showing your dashboards on CSV file, it will be showing the dashboards on your cleaned data.
Okay. So it will not happen dynamically. Always we need to provide the clean data to the Power BI, right now? Means
Yes.
whenever new data will be added to the file, right? Always we need to refresh it. Then only Power BI can perform the
Yeah.
Yes.
Now,
Next operation.
yeah, let me like proceed with this question. So what Sushma ma'am is saying is, like, whenever there is any kind of new data, or whenever there is like different kind of data which is in the CSV files, is it our responsibility to run this code so that Power BI dashboard is in sync with the clean data, correct? So whatever I am showing you in the workshop, it is purely on manual basis, right? What companies do is, at the start of the lecture, what we said is, like, a company has around 600 to 800 softwares. So what companies do is, they create this particular softwares, and they have a schedule, like, this particular Talend job, it will run on daily 10 a.m. So ideally it will always look for any new CSV files, maybe new files for 2021 to year 2022. If that new file is present, it will automatically get clean the data as per our rules. It will put that into centralized location MySQL. Again, on the Power BI also does not know if it got new data. So Power BI will also have to be running on a schedule. Okay, so ideally, if this whole cleaning process takes like half hour, so we started our Talent job at 10 a.m., which cleaned the data and it put the data in MySQL at 10:30. Power BI will refresh, like, make a refresh on the data at 11 a.m. Why? Because it knows till 10:30 Talent will have got it, the clean data. Do you get the point?
Yes. Thank you. Yes. Got it.
Yes. Okay. Any other questions? These are good questions. Like, now I know that you guys are paying attention. Okay. By who is this speaking? Yeah. What about it? Like, what is your question? Yeah, can you repeat the question, Purnesh? Yeah. Yeah. This is also a good question. So, what your voice is? Yeah, your voice is breaking. Yes, speak now. Yes. Go ahead. Yep. Yep. Hmm. Yeah. So for this particular, so let me repeat the question. So Purnesh, what he's asking is, like, now you're dealing with like structured kind of data wherein you are dealing with CSV files, but it is a good observation that companies have different kinds of data. It could be unstructured data in the form of text data, or maybe images, right? Or maybe your MongoDB data, which is not specifically data like relational kind of data, or maybe emails, right? So for that particular purpose, you have different shapes over here. So if I show you in this panel, suppose you want to get data from MongoDB specifically, which is unstructured data, right? Which stores unstructured data. If you go over here, so uh, yeah, there are different kind of connectors which are present over here. So if you go to databases and go to DB specifics, you go down. So you have Microsoft SQL Server. Now you don't see MongoDB over here. Why? Because by default, Talent does not come with MongoDB libraries. So just as we add extensions to your IDE, right? You must have installed plugins for your VS Code or maybe IntelliJ. Similarly, if you want to work with unstructured data like MongoDB or maybe emails, you will have to put that kind of connector, like install a connector for this. Makes sense? Yeah. So it is up to you, like what source and what target you want, like what your centralized location is. Now for example, if you are in a company which works with maybe AWS database, but if that particular database is not present here in Talend, you can install it as a plugin so that it shows up here. Right now I tried to search for MongoDB, right? It did not show MongoDB over here, but once I install the plugin, it will show me similar to MySQL maybe. See, I see for MySQL, right? Maybe I want to do MySQL output, maybe I want to do MySQL commit, MySQL connection. Correct? Makes sense. All right, we'll move ahead. So yeah, now we are at the stage, like we read the data from the source. Now we want to put that data into target, but before doing that we need to make cleaning, right? We need to do the cleaning. So what we could do is, for cleaning, in that regards I will have to choose the 19 file, because right now we chose 20, 14, 15 file, which does not have that total bad entry. So let me just make that selection. Also these tools, like they tend to run very slow because they are very heavy tools, because they are generating code for you, right, in the backend. That is why they work slow. Also I don't have a good laptop, so that is why it takes a lot of time. Okay, I think now we should be good. Since we did not use the tlog row, it did not show us the data. Okay, so I just make a right click for your clear run. And what big companies do is, like maybe Amazon, Facebook, they have huge data, right? On a daily basis they get like 1000 TBs of data. These tools, they are majorly meant for like medium to small scale industries. Why? Because their requirements are not that great enough, so they use these simple tools. But when you deal with companies like Amazon, Facebook, there is a lot of custom coding which needs to be done. You need to do like divide and conquer strategy. Then you must have heard about concepts like Hadoop, Apache Spark, right? So those people, they properly write Python code or properly write Java code to make these pipelines. But majority of Indian companies would be using tools like Talend. Okay, and it is also easier to step into the BI development. That is why I chose this particular tool. Yeah, if you see, we got this total record. Right now, how do you clean that particular thing? So I just go to the palette, I go to filter basically, and I want to filter a row, right? So I need to filter that row before showing it on the output. So I drag that here, I go into the filter, I click that shape. Now it says that what condition do you want to filter the records with. So I add a column. I know that the column was commodity because that commodity thing has the value total, right? And here I give that particular value total. Okay. As soon as I do that, now on the filter, I have two options, the filter one and the reject one. So filter will get me the the record which matched that condition, and the reject will get me the records which did not match that condition. Are you getting the point? It is like if else, basically. Okay. So if I what we'll do is we'll just deactivate this for a minute and we'll run this. Okay. Yeah, you see, it went through this route and it separated that total entry. Now what I will do is I will simply deactivate this and activate this. This is also a benefit of using tools. You could like mix and match, deactivate certain elements, debug certain elements, right? So it becomes easier for the developers to do the coding. Yeah, you see, the last record is no more total, it is different. So ideally we filtered that particular record. So this is one of the cleaning steps which we did. Okay, makes sense, guys? Alrighty, yeah, we'll proceed now. Now, okay, I'm good with the reading of the data. I'm good with the cleaning of the data. Now my end goal is to put that data into my centralized location. Finally, we come to that particular spot. So how do we do that? Just as we created the metadata or the hint data for CSV, similarly we need to also do it for MySQL, because then your Talend won't be able to understand how to put that data. So my first responsibility is go to DB connections, create a connection. Okay, so that my Talend understand what kind of database I am using, what kind of table I am going to use. Okay, so I will use MySQL imports, suppose. Next. No, I don't want to do this. This is already in place. Yeah, you know what I will do. I'll delete this. I'll simply go to MySQL. So guys, like till now we have not touched the BI part, but the important thing to note over here is, in order to see this beautiful dashboard, there is lot of work which happens behind the scenes. And that work, the first thing is, how do you understand the data to understand the cleaning mechanisms for it. The second thing is, how do you make data pipeline so that you can get it into a centralized location, correct? So this dashboard will be looking good, would be really useful only if we do justice to these prior steps. That is why I'm focusing much on that. Okay, making a Power BI dashboard, it is quite easy because you will be having data till then. I will show you how easy it is. So yeah, you go to this, you go to DB specifics, MySQL. What you want to do is you want to output, right? It also gives you hints over here. Inserts or updates lines into a MySQL table, which we want to do, right? We want to read that data and put it into MySQL. I drag it over here. Now the thing is, like, okay, you know the data, but which column from that CSV data will be mapped to what column in MySQL? That is the main decision, right? You want to do that mapping, the source data and the target data, what goes where. You need to make that decision. So for that, you have this very important shape which you will be using in almost all the data pipelines. That is called as tmap. Okay, and this is where the code looks interesting. You go to reject because we don't want that total record thing. You go to tmap. What you'll do is you will also connect this, and you will call that cleaned records for MySQL. Oops, I made a mistake. Okay, what I need to do is I simply want to I want to drag these units over here. Yeah, so what I'm doing is, this is my input which I'm mapping it with my MySQL columns. Okay, MySQL columns. This will likely fail. I'll tell you the reason why. Go to the MySQL shape. We have not yet told the Talend what kind of MySQL database are we working with. So we'll have to make that thing, right? So you go to repository, you go to DB connections. I have already made this connection wherein I gave my user details like password and this, so that it can access this particular table. Like my Talend can access this MySQL table. Click OK. So it gets all these things, like a database always has a server like local host. It also has a port, like for MySQL it is 3306. Okay, so login, the password, it has all those details. Okay, I select yes. It asks me the table. Okay, but I know what table it is because we already created it in the first place, right? We ran this particular query to create this empty table. So ideally what I will do is, see, it shows over here imports table. I'll click that thing, and then it will ask me what should I be doing on this particular data. So I could simply say like, drop the already created table, create that table newly again. We already have that table, right? So there is no point in dropping it. So what I will do is, I will just put it to default. And what you want to do with the data, do you want to insert that data, do you want to update the data on a specific key, or you want to delete the data if you search that data already present in MySQL. So ideally we want to just insert the data, right? So I will insert, and then we'll try to run this. How's the weather in Pune? Like, is it raining or is it like, because it is raining heavily here in Boston. Okay, okay. So you have time to go out now since it is not raining. Cool, cool. And yeah, it will take some time. I will also show you what it is actually doing behind the scenes, and you will be pretty amazed to know what this tool does internally. Hope this works quickly. The reason it takes time is because this is internally a Java code. So it will try to get all those MySQL files. It builds a Maven project out of it. That is why it takes so much time. Yeah, I said right, it would be failing. The reason for that is because there are two things. Okay, if you see over here, everything like the unit and quantity, it is string. Okay, but in our MySQL table, when we created that particular table, the columns, if you see, the quantity is a float, whereas here in Talend it is string. So it was not able to do that casting from string to float. Okay, similar for amount is also float over here. So ideally when you adjust these values, it would be able to like put the data over here. Now how do we do that adjustment? It is pretty complex, so I will just show it to you in the already pre-built code, okay, over here. So in this particular example, right, what we did is we got a single file, right, but our ultimate goal was to read all these 5 files one by one, get that particular data into MySQL. So that is why you see a bit complicated code over here. So what I do is, first I use this particular shape t file list, and I give the location of the folder. Okay, so I gave this folder location and I give it a mask. So all the files which start with this regular expression like import star.csv, meaning import, and after that anything .csv should be captured by this shape. Okay, so ideally when we run this particular shape, it will list all this 6 to 7 files to Talend. Once we have those files in our Talend code, then we follow this particular code. Now one by one we are trying to read that CSV file, and in order to read that CSV file, what do we need? We need that hint and the metadata, right? So we created that hint metadata already over here. It uses that hint metadata, but while fetching the file, it uses a variable. Okay, so one by one, so this shape, it got us 6 files, right? 6 files. So it takes the first file, 2014-2015 file, puts it into context over here. Okay, then what it does is it does some cleaning. If you noticed in the data set, there are certain columns which have NA values, right? A commodity name cannot be NA meaning non-applicable, meaning it is a null value. But instead of giving null, these guys, they gave NA, which is a bad character, right? Your amount can never be NA. Amount needs to always be a number, right? So what I did is I'm searching for these columns and I'm replacing them with null values. Okay, a proper null values, not string NA fields. Does this make sense, guys? So here is where we are doing the data cleaning. Okay, once we do that, we had another data cleaning task of removing that total row, right? So you did partial cleaning over here. Okay, you did the next cleaning step over here. Now you're trying to map the data. Okay, so in the map, why do you see two shapes over here? Because what I'm trying to do is I'm also putting this data into database, but in process I'm also trying to merge all these 5 files, like 6 to 7 files, into one master file. Manually what I could have done is I could have like opened these files in Excel, copied them and made a master list. Why to do that if we have a tool to automate this process, correct? So that is why we have two targets, right? One target is MySQL and the second target is a output file which is a CSV file. Does this make sense, guys, or is this confusing? Clear? Yeah, or is it boring? Guys, you need to speak up. Yeah, so yeah, okay, so we are getting it from the source. Okay, we now this particular block, it handles the MySQL thing, and this particular block, it handles the CSV thing. Okay, now as I mentioned, for the MySQL block, right, we casted those values properly. Like quantity in the database, it is a float variable, because you simply cannot copy a string variable in CSV file to a float column in MySQL. Because if you are giving a string like Aditya, how will that Aditya be stored in MySQL float column? You simply cannot do it, right? So in order to make that particular thing, we already cleaned that data over here, right? So if it is na, we already put it as null. Whenever there is a null value and you do like casting, it will go to default, maybe 0 or maybe a null value itself, correct? Yeah, and we also want to have the file name in our MySQL database, right? To understand, since we are making it a single location, to understand where this record came from, which file. So how can we get access to it? Since we are using this file shape one by one, in current context, in the current run, okay, in the current run, we know that file name, right? Like it is running for 2014, 2015 at this moment. So we capture that particular value here, okay? And once we capture that particular value as a file, we then pass it to the year, okay? We are basically doing a substring on that Java substring. So what I did is I got this name, so something like this. I got the file name as this, import 2014 2015. I did a substring to get access to this part of the data, and then I put that particular data in the year panel. Are you getting the gist how I extracted that data from my file name? You are basically using Java functions over here, substring, okay? So this is how we mapped the data, and then we put it into database, okay? Simply database and the CSV files. Alrighty, this is good. So let me run this thing so that you get idea. Also, I will delete this master file so that whenever I run this Talend code, it will automatically make that file for us, okay? Clear, run. And again, guys, like the goal of the workshop is not that you get excellent at making this project, but it is to show how end-to-end project is created, what are different components. At least it will give you idea what things you need to research on. If you are more interested on the database side, you should research MySQL. If you are more interested in this pipelining thing, go ahead, explore Talent, right? It's just a workshop, it is not a lecture, correct? Yeah, if you see the live status right over here, it says, yeah, 6 executions finished. Why? Because we had 6 files here, and see, we got a master file which was created automatically when we ran this code. Also, if you go to the MySQL table now and you run a select query on it, see, it got all the data, right, in this particular table. And if you want to see how many records were brought by that Talend job, we got 60140 records, right? So we are done with this whole process of like getting the data to a target location. Now the fun part, like the part which we were waiting for, like BI layer, okay? So you go to Power BI basically, okay? I'll make a new one. I will also close this thing so that my laptop works faster. Okay, any questions, team? We can take a break if you want. Ideally, in this dashboard, what I'm trying to do is I am only focusing on one of the commodities, which is tea, right? So I am trying to see which 10 countries are the maximum exporters to India. Okay, so at the first place we have we have Nepal. Why? Because in 2014, like specifically 2014, Nepal like gave India exported India tea worth of 152 crores. Okay, 152 crores worth tea Nepal exported to India. Each kg of that tea was 140, like 140 rupees per kilo was that price for that Nepal tea. Okay, the quantity was this much. Like Nepal in the year 2014, it contributed how much? 10 million kgs. Okay, 10 million kgs of tea to India. Okay, if you go to a more recent year like 2019, maybe, yeah, as soon as I make a selection on the dashboard, it refreshes all the charts because the dashboard is developed in that way. If you make a slight change, all the charts will get updated, so it is completely dynamic. So close this, don't need this anymore, need this anymore. Just a fun story, like till this thing is happening, like in our master's course, like we took this particular course. It was on the similar lines, wherein right now we are working on like 60,000 records, right? In my master's project, like different assignments and projects, we were dealing with like 20 GB of data, which was ideally around like 20 million to 30 million records, right? Now we are dealing with 60,000 records and still it is lagging so much. When you deal with like 20 million records, which is worth 20 GB of data in your MySQL, it takes hell lot of a time. That is why we have powerful tools like cloud. So now we develop this code in Talend, right? But when you want to deal with this kind of big data, you shift to more powerful cloud tools like AWS, Azure, GCP. Yeah. So as soon as I made a selection for 2019, right, it updated all the details. Again in 2019, Nepal was the highest exporter. Okay, 163 crores worth of tea was contributed. Okay, and 9 million kgs of tea was given. And if you see the bottom countries, right, Taiwan, Zimbabwe, France, they were the least contributors in that region for India. Okay, and I am also showing this particular thing on a map. Okay, so I can get a one click, like one site view of which countries are the good exporters for the tea, so that I can focus on the distributors or maybe manufacturers in this area. And this red area means I can work on these areas. So I chose the colors also in that way, so that if I am a manager who wants to increase business in my tea imports, I could maybe focus on, like if you zoom right over here, I could focus more on Poland because Poland is contributing less amount of tea, right? Are you understanding the value which we built through this dashboard? All right. Okay, so we have a plain Power BI. What time, Sushma ma'am? How much time have we left? Are we good on the time?
No issues, Aditya. Please continue.
Okay,
10.
okay. 10:30, right?
Yes,
Okay.
10:30 or 11 you can continue till 11. Yes.
Sure, sure. I have 30 minutes more. Okay, sure. I'll just take 15. Okay, so we have a blank canvas over here. The main goal is now, I have a canvas, right? Empty canvas. Some way or other I need to show the dashboard, but do I have the data in Power BI? No. I, again, just as the way we configure Talend to get access to the data, similarly we need to configure Power BI. Okay, so the first choice is you get the data. Okay, you select this option. Now what kind of data are you getting? So it is MySQL, right? We did all the cleaning and we got it into MySQL. So I go to more. Okay, here if you search for MySQL, you have a MySQL thing, right? You try to connect. Okay, you are like instructing Power BI to connect to MySQL, but it complains that you do not have a connector. This is the classic issue which BI developers or data people face. Developing of these things is quite easy, but there is also one part, configuration part, right? That is why you couldn't do the workshop right now with me, because these errors, they come now and then. You have to make configurations so that all the data thing works smoothly. So okay, I tried installing this MySQL connector, but it did not work, so I had to figure out other way. You guys must be knowing this particular concept, right? If you want to connect to a database, you have this option like of connecting via JDBC connector, or maybe via a ODBC connector. So since it did not do by the default route, I went and chose to go by the route of ODBC. So n number of ways you can access the data, depending on your configuration, depending on what policies your company is trying to use. You will choose the connector. So since ODBC works on my laptop, I choose ODBC connector. I connect. It asks me which kind of database are you trying to connect with. So I am ideally connecting to a MySQL database. I click OK. And since this connection was properly configured by me before this workshop, it will ideally show me a pop-up over here. Okay, yeah. Now all the tables which we had in our MySQL, right, they are shown over here. So it is now our responsibility to select what kind of data we want. So we want it in this database. Okay, I know I created this particular table which has all my data. Now see, it shows us the preview of the data as well, right? What kind of data we have. Now you have two options. You can directly load this data if you are good with this data, or if you want to have another layer of cleaning over it, specific cleaning for BI application, you can use that. So I would like to go with that cleaning. So I'll transform the data. So what kind of cleaning do I need? So my MySQL table, right, it has data in this particular format. We have commodity, country, unit, etc. I really don't need the file name in my BI application. That was just for our purpose. That was majorly for a data pipeline. There is no point in getting this data to Power BI. So I would like to delete it, right? So I'll just remove it. Correct. Then amount, right? This amount is amount for a particular shipment. For example, if I go below, yeah, suppose this T. So this amount signifies the complete amount for these many kgs, like 575 kgs, right? The amount is for that, and it is in US million dollars. But I do the whenever I design the dashboards, it would be not um, appropriate to show the column name as amount, because I don't know whether it is INR or whether it is USD. So it becomes my responsibility to show to name this column properly. So I will go over here, I will rename it, and I could simply write it as what do I have over here? Yep. Yeah. So I will rename it as this. Okay. The name is like USD import amount in millions. Okay, I want to rename this column as this. I'll click yes. So I rename the column so that it is shown properly on my dashboard. Now, since we are dealing with India based data, right, it makes sense to show the data in rupees, right? And for us, we generally don't deal with millions and billions, we deal with crores, right? So we need to make add that column so that it is helpful for Indian audience, because ideally Indian audience would be using this data. So what I could do is I could close and apply this, because my first level of cleaning on the BI data is done. It will apply those changes. It will grab that data from MySQL, and in turn it will apply that renaming of the column, deletion of that file name column, everything now. And if you see the message over here, right, it is creating the connection to my MySQL database. It will start getting the data in a short while. Loading the data to model. Yeah, see, it is importing those records. The number is increasing. Okay, so it loaded that particular data. Okay, so in Power BI we have three sections. Okay, we have report, wherein we can build that beautiful dashboard. We can view the data which we are currently using. Okay, so since we had just one table, we are being shown that particular data over here. Okay, now one of my requirements was to show a INR based column, because it will be useful for Indian audience, right? So there is something called as DAX. So what you do is you add a new column. You want to add a new column. That column will be computed from this column. Why? Because if I know my tea was imported for $1 million, what I will do is I will multiply that $1 million by today's exchange rate. Like maybe $1 is 85 Indian rupees. So I will have to make that function over here. So how do I do that? I make a new column. Okay, so what it asks is, okay, you're trying to create a new column, but how should I create that column? So you have this particular expression. Okay, so I want my column to be named as this, in INR import amount in crores. Okay, I want to refer the column, okay, this column, like for every value in this data set, I want to refer individual value. I want to multiply it by this factor. This converts millions into crores, and this is your current exchange rate, like 83.12. $1 is 83.12 Indian rupees. Once you select go, it will compute that column and create this. Okay, now why this is zero? Because the quantity is null and your amount is also zero. That is why it did zero. But if you go down, yeah, over here, uh, where is T? It may be for this. Yeah, this. So this is 94 crores. Okay, 94 crores worth of data. And I also want to judge the price per kg. Like for example, if I'm getting, like Nepal gave me suppose 65 crores of tea, right? But at individual level, how much did it cost me for per kg? So we have this complex formula over here. I will try to make a new column out of that. You got the point, right? We can make new columns from previous columns in Power BI, or else we could have done the same things in Talend and we could have stored that in MySQL table also, right? But it was our decision that we don't need that unnecessary data in my MySQL table, hence I'm generating it over here. Okay. All right. Yeah, see, it does this. So this was the like point which I wanted to share with you guys. Now I will shift to the already created dashboard so that we save time. I don't want to save this. I want to go to this. Okay, I will jump to the data view of this because I already built those columns beforehand. Okay. uh, wh- since we got this data from MySQL, right? In MySQL, the data type for country was text, simple text, right? But if you want to show this like beautiful maps in Power BI, you have to again cast it to Power BI data type. Okay, so you click this country thing, country column, and then it asks us what kind of category it is. So I select, you can select country, you can select continent. So ideally this is country, right? So internally what it does is it calls Microsoft's APIs. It tries to do some machine learning to understand whether this is Russia, whether this is Qatar, and then it assigns the coordinates so that it can show this picture filled polygon. Okay, some engineering happening over there. Okay, so nice, we have the data in place. Suppose the next part is we have different. So in our use case we were just dealing with a single table, right? Single table. But in big use cases, like in suppose data warehousing, you would have a centralized like fact table and different dimension tables over here. So you would be seeing a diagram which has like links and other tables. Okay, but since this is a simple use case, we only see one table and no foreign key, primary key kind of connection over here. Now to the important part. You come over here, you add a new page. Now how do you make the BI? Okay, how do you make a dashboard? So for example, I am interested in knowing my year. Okay, so simply what you do is from the data you grab the data, you just drag it and put it over here. Ideally we have only this much data like 2014, 15. Okay, I also want to grab the, suppose we are doing quantity. Okay, so what it did is it computed all the quantity, instead of quantity we could do actually price. Okay, we could do price. Yeah, price is better. Okay, so what did I do? Simply I dragged these fields and I put it into the dashboard. Okay, and it automatically did the calculation for us. Like in 2014 you had almost 3 million crores worth of amount spent on imports. Okay, got the point what it did? If you simply want to capture the total imports till date, like what is the amount, you simply drag that thing over here and you can switch this particular chart. Like now it is showing me a bar chart, but ideally I want to just show a number which signifies how much amount did India invest in the imports. So I simply come over here, I go through different sheets. Yeah, so almost 22.16 million crores. Okay, 22.16 million plus crores worth of rupees were put into these import items. Okay, uh, we have this table, right? We could also copy paste over here. Okay, and suppose I want to see a bar chart out of it, you can simply switch. Once you click that, you get a bar chart over here. Okay, so it is quite easy. You just have to see which columns do you need for your application. Okay, now if I'm interested only in 2014, if I click 2014, automatically all the charts will get updated. So it matches, right? 372 million crores. If I make a selection for 2019, automatically it will update the data for 2019. Okay, now what if I just want to, now this particular sales, right, it is for all the items. Now we are only interested with tea, right? So we want to have some sort of filter. So what we can do is, tea is in commodity, right? So you put commodity filter on this page, filters, right, on this page, and in this you go to tea, because we are only interested in tea. Yeah, so like for specifically tea, right, in 2014, 528 crores were invested. Okay, it is ideally shown over here. Any questions, team? Is this interesting? This looks interesting, right? Making charts, working with the visuals. Any comments so far? None? We are good. Okay, one more thing which I could show you is, we were interested in the map thing, right? How do you show the map? So what I could do is, you just have to see what you want to put in the thing, and you simply drag it over here. So ideally I want country, so I put a country over here. Ooh, this takes a lot of time. So maybe country. Yeah, so it automatically generates this particular map. Okay, this big map. If you hover to those things, okay, it shows us what countries are present. Like for example, this is Afghanistan. Okay, but we are not getting necessary information on this, right? So if you could do, you could drag the sales amount, okay, the import thing which was done. Yeah, now whatever big bubbles, they show that that particular country contributed more. If you hover now over North America, it will show that USA, it gave this much amount. Okay, Saudi Arabia gave this much amount. So it is simple to create this visualization. You just want to drag those elements. If you drag commodity, maybe what it will do for that. And we could also do a filter so that it only shows for tea. Tea and coffee, maybe we could have two things to have a comparison. We have tea, we have coffee. Yeah, now it looks good, right? So for example, if I am interested in okay, suppose USA. So in USA green part is more, right? So USA exports more tea than coffee to India. This is what we could interpret. Understanding the power of visualization, team. So like from this BI, I could make a decision like US could more focus on coffee imports in India more, because it already is doing good on the tea imports, but it could focus more on coffee. It's good, right, to see how data can help us get more insights and how we can take decisions. And it was all possible because of the pipeline which we built in Talent. How did we build the UI, the BI thing? Okay, I will show you this. If you have any questions, I am done with the workshop finally. If you guys have any questions, if you have any comments, the stage is open. If you need any suggestions on your projects, the stage is open. I think we are good with the time. I took 15 minutes. It's good.
Any questions, student?
Okay. How does Power BI? So we have question from Madhuri ma'am. How does Power BI handle real-time data streaming and refreshes for up-to-date reporting? Okay, so this is an advanced question. What do we mean by real-time data streaming? So, for example, you have maybe Uber or Lyft. In India it is like Uber and Ola. Okay, so on like minute basis you get different rides which are scheduled. So this is no longer a CSV data set or no longer a database data, right? It is events, it is like messages which are continuously flowing. How Power BI handles this is there is something called as near real time data pipelines. So what they do is they aggregate the data at small windows like 15-minute window or maybe 5-minute windows. They store it in centralized location. That centralized location could be a S3 bucket, or maybe it could be a cache like Redis. Power BI then needs to make a connection to that location where the small data is captured. It then makes the dashboard on that particular small data set. Here, what we did is we transformed bulk data from CSV directly to a database. In real time dashboard, what happens is the data continuously comes, it gets aggregated into small bins, small buckets. That small buckets is picked up by Power BI, and the Power BI is configured in such a way that it refreshes that data for 5-minute intervals, for 15-minute intervals. For, as Sushma ma'am also asked, right, how do we get new data into database? We have to make the Power BI also refresh the data. Power BI needs to speak with MySQL that okay, maybe I have new data. uh, See if that new data is present in MySQL, and then update the dashboard. So ideally, if you see this dashboard, right, suppose we are in 2023 and the data pipeline works correctly, the numbers over here will get updated automatically. Why? Because we have both schedules. The data pipeline is bringing new data at 10 a.m. and the Power BI thing is getting refreshed at 11 a.m. Does this answer your question?
Yeah, definitely. I got the things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was this good use of your Sunday time? I just wanted to ask that because yeah, I did not cover like basic workshop, but I just wanted to give more of a overview.
Yes, Aditya, it was really nice time to have your session here on Sunday because during working hours, so it would not be possible because they are having offline sessions and it will be difficult to arrange the online session during this offline. So really, this was nice time to interact with you on Sunday, and really I hope students will utilize this knowledge to build their projects. They are having mini project in this subject,
That's great.
and at the end of the semester they will build the dashboard and in their mini project. So definitely it will be useful, and I hope all students will utilize this knowledge.
That's interesting. That's
Yes, thank you very much for finding your time during this busy schedule, right? Really, very, very thank you. Thanks to HOD ma'am, Madhuri ma'am, and Chetan sir for their support and guidance here. Thank you very much, all.
Yes.
Sushma, I think
By the
some student wanted to speak.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Somebody unmuting.
Yes, student.
Was that Shantanu? Fine, Aditya. Very happy to have you here and hope you'll be there always for the students. Don't mind if the students don't speak. I know that as a student, also, you can put yourself in their place. Thank you very much.
yes. Yeah, yeah, ma'am. I don't mind actually. Yeah, it becomes difficult for students to follow. That is for sure. But yeah, my goal was to just connect back with the college and yeah, hoping to give good insights into the syllabus. That is for sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you. Yeah. Have a good day,
Yes.
everyone. By the way, yeah, I've shared my email and LinkedIn if students want to get back with me. Just take a photo of it. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you. Yes.
Yes.
Take care. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you so much. Thank you.